near misses.
Which is ridiculous, isn't it? Hit. A collision is a near miss.
So you can plan, you can plan, but you can only control yourself.
Everybody knows that they're going to die, but yet everybody's surprised when it happens to them. Events are also the ones that cause the most damage. I'm Izzy.
And I'm Garcia.
Welcome to Informally Informed. Okay, so the Black Swan.
Racist.
This is a theory that was mentioned, funnily enough, in Sarah's eulogy. Well, I say Sarah's eulogy, her daughter's eulogy at Sarah's funeral. And it's an interesting concept, and me and a friend were talking about it afterwards. So
you have other friends?
I have so many other friends.
I feel betrayed.
You're like this, and then all of my other people, you know, the one I actually enjoy spending time with, they're like me.
Oh wow, I'm gonna remember you said that. It's recorded, so I'll never forget.
Never happened.
It's recorded.
Okay, so the theory, basically, the reason why it's called the Black Swan is because before anybody ever saw Black Swan, people assumed, as you would, that the swans were white.
Like in society.
And then somebody saw a black swan, and their perception obviously shifted, and they realised that there were such things as black swans, because absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, right? And they were discovered in Australia, and it's sort of been now used to symbolise things that were unpredictable, because nobody could have predicted black swans exist. Nobody could have predicted that because they've never seen one. Why would you assume, if only you've ever seen as a white swan, why would you assume black swans exist?
Brown swans exist.
No.
I can't tell the difference between all the
But absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. They might do, but nobody's ever seen one, right? And a guy called Nassim Taylor wrote a book on this, the Black Swan Theory. And it basically refers to black swan events that are basically unpredictable events that nobody could have seen coming, that have huge catastrophic impact. That no matter how much historical data you've got, no matter how much AI can predict certain patterns and all this kind of things, they're so completely out of left field that you would have no idea that they were coming. 9/11 would be a perfect example of a black swan event. They're often categorised, as well as being unpredictable and having catastrophic consequences worldwide and on a smaller scale. They're also categorised by the hindsight of, well, duh, even though in reality no one could have predicted it, but a lot of people after the fact are like, well, wasn't it obvious? Like, COVID is another black swan event. Yeah, there's so many people after the fact going, well, it was obviously that, something was going to happen, and this, you have a lot of people claiming that, right? So the black swan events that happened worldwide are normally pretty negative. 2008 financial crash, 9/11, COVID, things like that. And we are living in a society where predictability is power, right? Predictability is power. And black swan events all are kind of viewed as negative. And they are in a lot of cases, because how do you prepare for something like that? Well, first of all, you prepare in advance. Like, there is such a thing as countries do have massive amounts of money and massive amounts of X, Y, and Z put away, resources, stocks, just in case something catastrophic happens.
Yeah, because perfect planning prevents pathetic performance.
Exactly. So you can prepare on some sort of level. You can do things like 9/11. Everyone learned a great deal from 9/11. The police, the SWAT teams, all these kind of people, they do drills in case it happens again. Feet on the ground. What do we do in this situation? Another example of a black swan event would be the Manchester Arena bombings. They changed protocol after that in order to they looked at the way it was responded to and changed things accordingly. So one example is The security has gone up.
Mhm.
Every time there's anything on at the MEN Arena in Manchester, you've got armed police there.
Mhm.
The securities no longer stand up on the steps around. They're now at the bottom of the steps in the train station because MEN is right next to
Manchester, Victoria.
Manchester, Victoria, yeah. And you can get to the arena through the station. So in the station now they've got the armed police. And instead of putting security at the top of the stairs, they've then brought them down so that they're at the bottom of the stairs. In case a bomb goes off, they're less likely to be impacted, more likely to be able to help. Certain things like that. But at the same time, it also kind of gives me this like sense of optimism in the fact that Black Swan events still happen, not because, I'm all for death and destruction or anything like that.
You are, but go on. Your stories never end well. They always end in death and destruction.
But it is nice to know, sort of comforting to know, that regardless of all this AI stuff, regardless of all this, learning history is good because it means you can plan for the future, all this kind of thing. There is still going to be always, no matter how advanced technology gets, there's always going to be a level of spontaneity. There's always going to be unforeseen events.
Because human beings are
And
unpredictable.
that's because of human behaviour. Exactly, human behaviour. And that's nice. That provides me with a sense of optimism. Because it's exciting. It's spontaneous. You never know what's going to happen. If the world was, sucks to be you in that situation, obviously. But I'm coming across. I don't know how I'm coming across here.
No, you're right.
But it makes for a more exciting
Life. I guess. I mean, I look at this and I think of the loss of life that occurs during these. Just like what they called extinction events. Extinction events. Societies and governments plan for such things, but they only plan for this for a small for a small part of their society. They don't plan for it on a macro scale.
Sure, but if you take the history of the planet,
Mm.
planet's old.
Mm.
There have been 27, 28, I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head, extinction events in the entirety of life on this planet.
Since records have been recorded.
No. That includes
the dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs.
Oh,
that includes everything, right? That's not a large number.
No, but I guess it's like with anything, because we call them near misses at work. Near misses.
Which is ridiculous, isn't it? A hit. A collision is a near miss.
Well, they're called near misses. I didn't make this up. They're just called, the NHS calls them near misses, and it's when things go wrong.
But there's different levels. So you've got the near misses, and then the never events.
Oh yes, goodness, I forgot about the never events. They also occur. Like, that's when things that should never happen do happen, and then the learning and planning that comes from the event that's happened. So it's the same thing. Yeah, I guess most people do in fact do this. When things go wrong in your normal everyday day-to-day life, you tend to plan. Well, the most people of intellectual capacity tend to learn from their mistakes and then plan for it.
Like the caveat.
Yeah, thank you. And then plan for it so that it never occurs again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, nobody's perfect. What's the saying?
I'm perfect.
The best laid plans aft gang ugly, I believe is the correct. It's a Scottish phrase. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I know that God makes plans and humans make plans and God laughs or something like that. So the same sort of thing.
But that's what I think's beautiful about life. Like, every time we plan, there's also a Harry Potter quote where Hermione says, "Oh, we can't just go in up there all guns blazing. We need to plan." And then Harry responds with, "Hermione, how many times have our plans actually work? We go, we plan, we get there, all hell breaks loose."
But then I think of life as a game of chess a lot of times. We've discussed this. I play a lot of strategy games. I always think like this, which is good thing and a bad thing. And I think in terms of strategy, in terms of planning, but rarely do things ever really go according to plan. They go to according to my plan for me, but I cannot control other people. I haven't come into my mind control powers yet, but when I do, you'll be the first person I use them on.
That comes back to the let them theory, which we did an episode.
Yeah, we did. So I guess in terms of the black swan theory, though, it's you can only really control yourself. So you can plan, you can plan, but you can only control yourself. Yeah.
And you can type certain things into a computer algorithm. You can type in things like the probability that the train's not going to arrive on time and various other things like that. But a lot of that stuff that you can predict with really good accuracy with probability and statistics and stuff still doesn't account for human behaviour.
Yeah, I mean, who saw COVID coming?
No
Oh, well.
No one.
No.
Are you doing the hindsight thing again? Because I'm
not doing the hindsight thing. I'm thinking of when I was on placement at a community team, and at this time I was really obsessed with world news. Do you remember this? I became very, very obsessed with world news, to the point that during the pandemic, my partner at the time had to ban it. But I became very obsessed. So probably about the November-ish, I started seeing what was happening in China. And I went in to work and told the community team, look, please plan for this, because I guarantee you it will be at our doors before you even think about it. Because the Chinese are some of the most well-traveled people in the world. They travel everywhere. So if there's a disease there, it will be here. Cut to February, March, when we went into lockdown. I actually got an apology for that. I actually did get an apology for that. But because of my propensity for planning, I always bulk buy anyway, as you know. I didn't have to go out and scramble for toilet roll. And I tried to tell other people this, but they just did not believe me. And I understand it, because they don't pre-plan for themselves. So it's easy for me to pre-plan for me, because I can control my actions. But no matter the amount of telling, they were just not getting it. They were not. I was showing them news articles. They're like, yeah, but it's all the way over there. It's not going to come here. And I'm like, this is not a hindsight thing. The hindsight...
Because it already happened.
Yes. The hindsight for me was probably, I could have saved myself a lot of grief, because I felt very sad when people didn't believe me. I could have probably saved myself a lot of grief and not said anything, because they wouldn't have believed anyway. And it's like that. I mean, when I think of, it was classed as an extinction event, even though I'm not sure it should have. The Spanish flu. No, Spanish flu.
Oh, Spanish flu. Was it?
It was, but it was downgraded. It's like categories, and it was downgraded because of the amount of lives that it took. I know that the bubonic plague was.
Are you sure? Are we talking about the same kind of level of extinction events where extinction happened? Yeah. I'm talking about when extinction happened.
I'm not talking about when extinction happened. I'm talking about, essentially, I guess it's near misses.
Yeah.
It's things that could have been not necessarily prevented, but they could have prevented the spread of it.
I mean, they could have prevented the spread of bubonic plague by knowing things medically that we now know in the 21st century.
Yeah, but in the 21st century, we've had COVID. They could have prevented the spread of that. They never did.
But we took steps that they didn't take because they didn't know what the hell was going on.
True. But I guess it just comes down to pre-planning. Planning, but then realising that life ain't gonna go that way.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a just in case person as well. But at the same time, there's certain things like travel I don't plan.
Whilst I'm a planner.
I like to just rock up and see what happens. Because if you plan, I mean, I'll look at things I want to do in advance, and if there's too many things I want to do compared to the time, then obviously I'm going to sit down and plan the time. But sometimes if it's a city break, sometimes I'll just spend 3 days wandering around the city.
Well, you see, I was the person in previous relationships, I was the person that was, if we're going here, I'm making sure that we are there on time. I'm there making sure that we have everything printed out for backup. I'm there making sure that, you know what I mean? I'm that person.
Can't use printed out boarding passes in the airports anymore.
No, I know, but I still print them just in case. I'm one of those people. I'm concerned for the safety of others. and it's annoying. Like it is annoying. It doesn't get me anywhere. But it never really goes according to plan for me anyway. So I often think, why do I even bother?
And during when Alice was giving the eulogy at Sarah's funeral, she said that her mum, when she sat down to tell them about her cancer diagnosis, she described her diagnosis as a black swan event. And it is. Things like that are black swan events. There's just no prepping for. I mean, you can not smoke. You can wear sun cream when you go outside. You can eat healthily.
But nobody thinks about these things in day-to-day life.
I mean, people do.
People do, but it's
more so now than ever before. Most of the people that I speak to, even people in work, like I had a conversation with the other day about buying fruit in tubs, and I said, "Oh, I don't like to buy apples in, pre-cut up apples in tubs," and they're like, "Why not?" And I was like, "Because apples go brown within the first 30 seconds of you cutting into it. So what have they sprayed on the apple to get it to stay like that?" And then the two people I was talking to both looked at me and went, "Oh yeah." And then one of them was like, "I'm never going to buy cut up apples again." So like,
this is me who hates pre-packed food. Pre-packed food are not.
People are more aware now than ever before about their health.
Yeah, that's true. But it still comes as a shock. It still comes as a shock when something that you're unprepared for hits you.
I'm going to give another quote this time. It's not Harry Potter.
Oh, we're branching out, are we?
It's Buffy the Vampire
Slayer. We're not branching out. We're not branching out.
In season, I think it's season 7, Anya, who's an ex-demon, obs, says something to Xander about people, humans. She says, "What I don't understand about people or humanity as a whole is that everybody knows the death that is going to happen to them, yet everybody's surprised. Everybody knows that they're going to die, but yet everybody's surprised when it happens to them."
Yeah, that's actually true. One way or another, yeah, you're gonna meet your maker. So it's one way or another. But I guess it's like with anything. I mean, God forbid you should die. I'd be in breakdown territory. No, I ain't gonna lie. I'm unprepared for that.
Now would I happy in the knowledge that you'll be in breakdown territory?
Shut up. If I drop dead tomorrow, you'd also be in breakdown territory. I don't know what you're talking about. But it would be an unexpected event because we're so young.
Be a black swan event.
Yeah, it would be very, very much a black swan event.
Even working in A&E, people come in shook up. Obviously people come in shook up. I mean, people come in and their stories shake you up. So I remember having a conversation with one of the radiographers the other week about crabs, eating crabs.
Oh yeah, you were telling me about this.
I was working that day that he was talking about, so I do remember. We were talking about something else. I said, "Have you tried it?" He's like, "No, I don't want to try it. I'm never going to try it." And I said, "Why not?" And he was like, "Well, what if I'm allergic to it?" And I was like, "That's ridiculous." I can't remember what it was we were talking about. And he was like, "It's not ridiculous. Remember that patient that she was only 28. She never had crab, she ate crab, went into anaphylactic shock, came into hospital, she died right in front of my eyes. She died." And I was like, "I remember that. Yeah, very well, yeah. But the reality is, you ain't going to die if you have crabs. You're just not. Wait, I meant the food crabs." I realised
you're also not going to die if you have.
But this woman was Indian and she'd had crab. She'd had crab many times in India. It was the first time she'd had it in the UK. She had a major allergic reaction to it and ended up dying in hospital. And obviously that's a black swan event, and it coming back to our episode on death and stuff. There's some things you just can't prepare for. How could that woman have possibly known that having something that she's had many times before in other parts of the world was going to kill her? She woke up that morning having no idea she'd be dead by the end of it.
But in a happier note, I'm also thinking of happier depending on how you look at it, like people that wind up unexpectedly pregnant. It's going to change their lives fundamentally.
That's not a black swan event then.
It could be, depending on the person. It could be. Say you've battled with infertility for 10 years.
Okay.
And then one day you turn up pregnant.
And there'll be no need to put. Well, there would still be need because STIs and stuff.
And then you've just gone your whole life thinking you're going to be child free, and then this changes everything. So I think that.
But 9 times out of 10, if you get pregnant, it's your fault. Just saying.
Well, yeah. But I do think that these things are they look different for people, individuals, but death is one of those things that's universal to everyone. Yeah, and it's just a sad reality, but also a reality. I mean, life is hard, man. Take me out.
And you know what? I'm looking forward to the next. Well, I say looking forward to, depending on terminology. I'm excited to see what the next Black Swan event will be in my life more than anything else, because there've definitely been some Black Swan events in my life that I just did not see coming, and I can't wait to find out what the next one's going to be.
Do you know?
Is this optimism of the future for me?
I feel that. I feel that in my current situation, optimism for the future. I mean, I will say I was injured at work last year, and it had massive effects on my life. Effects that I did not see coming. I was on a career trajectory that I'd planned for. It's taken a year to get back to functionality, really. Because it happened this time last year. I'm now starting a new job on a new career path, and I just look at this. Well, it's the same career path. It's a new job, and I look at that, and I'm like, no wonder God laughs at your plans. You think you have it all figured out? You ain't got shit figured out. But it's led to things that I did not see coming, like this podcast, and yeah, this podcast has changed my life dramatically. But also like opportunities, further opportunities that I didn't think that weren't really a thing. Like when I got invited to speak about the NHS, that's subsequently led to being invited to speak about other things. These are knock-on effects in life that I did not see coming, especially for someone like me who does not enjoy public speaking. Yeah. Oh. Funny when you think about things, how things have changed.
Yeah, but I would also argue that this same person in the same position, in the same career path with a different personality wouldn't have a podcast, wouldn't be going to speak in places. There is a level of responsibility there that not a lot of people have, and how you react to things. You can choose to turn a Black Swan event into a life-changing...
a White Swan event... Okay, go on.
Into a life-change... You can choose to turn a Black Swan event into a life-changing, positive thing, or you can sit in a dark room and cry yourself to sleep every night.
One for crying, please. No, I'm joking.
But yeah, okay, so lessons. So the first one is relying purely on data, like historical evidence, etc., isn't always going to work. Sometimes you need to think outside the box to come up with a solution, and that's important. It encourages, the idea of the Black Swan event encourages a more open-minded and adaptable approach to decision making. It recognises the potential for unforeseen. And if you're more adaptable, I didn't see this coming, but that's okay because I expected something that I didn't see coming to happen. You're going to have a whole different mindset than, I didn't see it coming and why isn't it not going to according to plan? Right? And the importance of building resilience. Preparing for the unpreparable, if you will. Resilience and adaptability. Thank you. Will better help you to better withstand the impact of the Black Swan. Resilience increases your ability to deal with situations. That's it.
I mean, I do agree. I do agree because I do think that I will credit Carl for my level of resilience. because of the sheer number of shit that I got put through in my 20s, because of the sheer shit that I went through. But also the ribbing, the driving, the get it together when you're like, it's given me a level of resilience.
For sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I think you need that, and I do think that society is lacking that ability to cope.
Awesome. Right. Well, let us know what you guys think, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you in the next one. Let us know if you agree or disagree with any of our views. That's the point of the conversation. Join in.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.